I didn't notice it all at once. That's the funny thing. You don't wake up one morning after 60 and hear your body clear its throat like it's about to give a speech. It's quieter than that. It's more like your body stops helping you pretend. It stops smoothing things over. It stops letting you borrow energy you never actually had. For most of my life, I could push through almost anything. If I was tired, I drank coffee. If my back hurt, I told myself I'd stretched wrong. If I was stressed, I called it busy. If I felt sad, I cleaned something. If I felt lonely, I turned the TV on and acted like that counted as company. And it worked. For a long time, it worked. But somewhere after 60, the body starts telling the truth in a way you can't talk your way out of. It doesn't always show up as a big scare. Sometimes it's just a small betrayal, like getting up from the couch and needing a second, just a second. But you notice it. Or standing in the grocery store aisle, staring at the bottom shelf and realizing the real decision isn't between two brands of oatmeal. It's whether you're willing to bend down for either one, or waking up at 3 a.m. for no good reason and your mind goes straight to things you haven't thought about in 10 years. Old conversations, old regrets, old worries that you swear you put away. I used to think my body was the part of me that carried my life. Now I think it's the part of me that remembers it. Because after 60, the body doesn't just react to what you do today. It reacts to everything you've done to yourself for decades. Not in a dramatic way, in an honest way. And I'll tell you something I didn't understand when I was younger. The truth your body tells isn't only about health. It's about how you've been living. There was a day not too long ago, I was in my kitchen, just doing what I always do. Nothing special. I had a sink full of dishes and a small pile of mail I kept stepping around like it wasn't mine. And I reached for a pot on the top shelf. Same shelf I've reached for 1,000 times. And I felt this sharp little pinch in my shoulder. Not the kind that knocks you down. The kind that makes you pause and stare at your own arm like it's being unreasonable. And my first thought was, oh, come on, like my shoulder was being dramatic. Then I realized I said that the same way I used to talk to myself. Oh, come on, keep going, don't be soft, don't make a big deal. That was my whole approach to life for years. You get through, you handle it, you keep the wheels turning. You don't slow down just because something hurts. You don't admit you're tired. You don't admit you're sad. You don't admit you need help. You especially don't admit you need rest. And you know what my body did after 60? It stopped agreeing to those terms. It started saying, no. No, you can't carry that like you used to. No, you can't sleep 4 hours and pretend you're fine. No, you can't swallow your feelings and expect your stomach to stay quiet. No, you can't keep your jaw clenched through every hard conversation and then act surprised when you wake up with a headache. It's not punishment. It's not betrayal. It's honesty. And at first, I resented it because it felt like being called out. It felt like I'd spent my whole life being dependable, being the one who shows up, being the one who doesn't fall apart. And now my own body was the one holding up a sign that said, we're not doing that anymore. I had moments where I thought, is this it? Is this how it goes now? One ache becomes another ache and the list just keeps growing. But then something shifted in me, not quickly, not neatly. It shifted the way a person shifts when they finally get tired of arguing with reality. I started noticing that my body wasn't just complaining, it was communicating. And it wasn't only talking about joints and muscles, it was talking about my pace, my habits, my fear, my pride, my loneliness. Because after 60, your body isn't as easily bribed. When you're younger, you can bargain with it. You can say, just let me get through this week. And the body says, fine. Then you say, just let me get through this month. And it says, fine. Then you say, just let me get through the holidays. And it says, fine. And you keep pushing the finish line farther away, like life is one long stretch of, after this, I'll rest. But after 60, the body gets tired of being promised later. It wants the truth now. I realized that when I started paying attention to when I felt the worst, it wasn't always after something physical. Sometimes it was after I talked to someone and pretended it didn't bother me. Sometimes it was after I sat alone all day and told myself I liked peace and quiet, when really I just didn't want to admit I missed being needed. Sometimes it was after I spent an hour looking at my bank account, doing the mental math, and then saying out loud, it's fine. Like the word fine could cover a real worry. And I noticed how my body reacted to that. My chest would feel tight. My stomach would twist. My shoulders would climb up around my ears like they were trying to hide. My sleep would get thin and broken. And I started thinking, if my body responds like this, maybe I'm not as fine as I keep telling everyone. There was another moment standing in the pharmacy line. You know that line where everyone's quiet, looking at their phones, trying not to make eye contact, like we're all pretending we don't live in bodies? The man in front of me was fumbling with his card. His hands were shaking a little. Not dramatically, just enough to notice. And the cashier was young, trying to be patient, but you could tell she was rushing inside. And I watched him apologize, over and over. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Like aging was something you should apologize for. And I felt this tightness in my throat that had nothing to do with my allergies. Because I've done that. I've apologized for being slower. I've apologized for not hearing something the first time. I've apologized for needing the bigger print. I've apologized for needing rest. And it hit me. This was another truth the body tells after 60. It forces you to face dignity. You can't keep pretending you're 25 and proud. You either learn to move through the world honestly, or you spend your days feeling ashamed of a perfectly human reality. That's exhausting. Shame. It's heavier than groceries, heavier than bills, heavier than the laundry basket that suddenly feels like it gained 10 pounds when you weren't looking. And the body, this is the part no one really says out loud. The body carries shame like a rock. You can feel it in your breathing. You can feel it in the way you hold your face. You can feel it in the way you rush, even when you don't need to. So I started doing something that felt strange at first. When my body signaled, I stopped treating it like an enemy. Not always. I'm human. Sometimes I still get annoyed. Sometimes I still think, really? Now? But I started asking a different question. Not what's wrong with me, but what's true right now? What's true? And I'll tell you what I found. Sometimes what's true is simple. I need water. I need a stretch. I need to take my time going down the stairs. I need a better shoe. I need to stop carrying a bag like I'm still trying to prove something. But sometimes what's true is harder. Sometimes what's true is, I'm lonely today. Sometimes what's true is, I'm worried about money. Sometimes what's true is, I'm angry about something I never dealt with. Sometimes what's true is, I'm tired of being the strong one. And the body doesn't let those truths sit quietly forever. It will speak through your sleep, through your appetite, through your back, through your jaw, through that little tremble in your hands when you're trying to keep it together. And once you see that, you start realizing your body isn't only aging, it's testifying. It's telling the story you've been trying to rewrite with effort and politeness. It's saying, this is what your life has felt like. And you can either listen or you can keep arguing until it gets louder. One of the hardest things I had to accept was that I couldn't live off adrenaline anymore. I used to run on it. Deadlines, family needs, emergencies, work, all of it. Adrenaline made me feel capable. It made me feel useful. It made me feel like I had a purpose. Then after 60, adrenaline started leaving me with a price tag. If I pushed too hard one day, the next day wasn't just a little tired. The next day felt like my bones had opinions. And at first, that scared me. Because if I couldn't push like I used to, who was I? That's the question underneath so many aches, isn't it? Who am I if I can't do what I used to do? Who am I if I need help? Who am I if I have to slow down? And that's where the truth gets tender. Your body telling the truth after 60 isn't just about limits. It's about identity. It's about finally letting yourself be a person and not just a worker, not just a caretaker, not just a problem solver, not just a strong one. Because some of us have been strong for so long, we don't even know what we feel until our body forces the issue. We don't know we're grieving until we can't sleep. We don't know we're overwhelmed until we forget simple things. We don't know we're bitter until our shoulders stay tight all day like we're bracing for a fight that never comes. We don't know we're lonely until we realize the day went by and we didn't speak out loud once. And then we wonder why we feel old. Sometimes what feels like getting old is actually just carrying too much truth without admitting it. I'm not saying the body is some wise little poet. Sometimes it's just creaky. Sometimes it's just arthritis and weather and genetics and the years doing what years do. But I am saying this. After 60, your body becomes a poor liar. It won't cover for you the way it used to. It won't let you keep living out of alignment without showing you the bill. And once I stopped resenting that, I started seeing it as a kind of strange mercy. Because the truth, even when it's inconvenient, is better than living numb, better than living in denial, better than waking up one day and realizing you spent years ignoring yourself because you were busy being fine. Now, I'm not perfect at this. Some days I still catch myself trying to outrun my own feelings by scrubbing the counter a little too hard. Some days I still say yes to something I should have said no to, and then I pay for it with a night of tossing and turning. But more and more, I'm learning to do something I never did when I was younger. I'm learning to respect the message. If I'm tired, I rest without making it a moral failure. If something hurts, I take it seriously instead of turning it into a joke. If I feel heavy inside, I don't immediately label it as weakness. I sit with it long enough to hear what it's trying to say. Because the truth is, my body isn't just taking things away. It's giving me something I didn't have before. Clarity. It's narrowing my life down to what's real. What matters, what doesn't, what I can do, what I shouldn't pretend I can do, what I need, what I've been denying. And there's a kind of peace in that, even if it's bittersweet, because peace doesn't always feel like happiness. Sometimes peace feels like finally stopping the performance. So if you've been feeling like your body is acting up after 60, I just want to say, maybe it's not acting up. Maybe it's telling the truth you've been too busy, too proud, or too scared to say out loud. And maybe that truth isn't there to shame you. Maybe it's there to bring you back to yourself. If any of this landed in your chest the way it landed in mine when I first started noticing it, I'd like to hear from you. What truth has your body been trying to tell you lately? You don't have to make it pretty, just real. And if you want to sign your comment with a simple name, I'll be here reading, probably with a cup of something warm, trying my best to listen, like Larita would.